Hey guys, before we jump into today's video, I wanted to send a special thank you to Married with Comics on YouTube. I was lucky enough to win one of their awesome giveaways. I won Something is Killing the Children, Volumes 1 and 2, and they were not wrong. These are incredible books by James Tynion. I got these in the mail yesterday, and I've already read both, and I am just chomping at the bit for Volume 3. If you like my content, if you like comic content, please, if you haven't already, check out Married with Comics. And thank you so much, Scott and Laura, for this awesome giveaway prize. Now let's go ahead and get to the review. Hello once again, everyone. My name is Dominic, and you're watching The Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. Today, I'll be reviewing the aforementioned Something is Killing the Children, Volumes 1 and 2. But first, some quick facts about these collections. Something is Killing the Children is an ongoing comic book series from Boom Studios, written by James Tynion IV, and illustrated by Werther Dell'Edera. The comics were first published in the fall of 2019. Volume 1 contains issues number 1 through 5 and is 128 pages long, while Volume 2 contains issues number 6 through 10 and is 144 pages. Something Killing the Children is a horror comic, and it has a little bit more profanity and blood than some of the other reviews I've done so far. If this isn't to your taste, I wanted to give a heads up front, as well as issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the collection as well as commenting on some of the story beats. You've been warned. And there are those beautiful trade paperback collections again. Take a look at these. Now we'll go ahead and start by taking a look at Volume 1 of these collections. Love the colors, by the way. Just a little bit of context for my relationship with this series. I ended up winning these, as I mentioned, in a giveaway from Married with Comics. Thank you again. But before winning them, I actually had never heard of this series, but I had heard of the author, James Tynion. I had read some of the books he'd done for DC Comics, but most recently, I'd read his entire series, The Woods, and I loved it. It was a great little mystery, adventure, coming-of-age series from one of the indie publishers, and it was just full of some great science fiction, some great characters, and just a fun narrative throughout the whole series. And when I found out I won the giveaway, I was so eager to see what this series was about. Imagine my surprise then when I found out what a gigantic hit this series has been the last year or so. It was nominated for an Eisner Award, which is one of the most prestigious awards a comic book can get. Suffice it to say, I could not wait to dive in. Something is Killing the Children starts with a seemingly harmless game of truth or dare among some maybe high school-aged boys. One boy, having selected truth, tells a fake story about him seeing what looked like a monster at the edge of the woods. And before you know it, that same boy is being interviewed by the police after all of his friends were found murdered and torn to shreds. The boy pleads that he was making it all up, that there wasn't a monster when he told the lie during the game, leaving the local law enforcement to speculate and wonder, what is killing these kids? Enter Erica Slaughter, a blonde woman with glowing eyes, who is shrouded in mystery. Unlike any other adult in this sleepy small town, Erica can see these monsters too, just like the children. And it becomes clear early on that she is in fact a monster hunter. Reading these first 10 issues in the last 24 hours, it became hard for me not to compare this series to a series called Hack Slash, where another somewhat haunted young woman hunts and slays monsters. Unlike that series, however, it became clear to me that Tynion's story seemed much more grounded. The characters much more nuanced, layered, and real. From primary characters like Erica and the boy James, as well as people like the sheriff, all the way down to the principal of the school. Tynion just creates people and a small town that is truly believable. which makes the events that occur within Something is Killing the Children all the more striking, as this small, sleepy town full of seemingly real people are confronted with the impossible reality of gruesome monsters that are slaying the town's children. While enjoying Tynion's characters and just the overall narrative, I felt like it was impossible to ignore along the way the beautiful illustrations by Dell'Edera. His artwork is more sketch-like, pencils that are a little more rough, but add so much character to the work itself. Coupled with the coloring from Miquel Muerto, we as readers are treated to such a vibrant piece of fiction. The colors go from understated autumnal colors like oranges and yellows as they travel throughout the town, all the way down to these cool color palettes of the blues and the turquoise and the purple that are totally set to contrast with the blood red that occurs with the violence. While some of these images are admittedly graphic, the art is just captivating. As I came to the end of the first collection, and Erica slayed the first monster, it became clear that all was not done in this sleepy little town, for that monster was just a mother, and all of its babies were loose and hungry, which brought me straight into Volume 2 of this series. Volume 2 picks up right where Volume 1 left off, and as far as the physical edition goes, it's very much like the first volume, with some new cover art, but the format is almost exact, which, as a collector, I love to see along my bookshelf. Nothing like uniformity. The first few pages of the second volume pick up immediately following the Truth or Dare game that began the first volume. Now as readers, we get to see what happens to James's friends in the woods, before flashing forward to the present moment, where we find James recovering in the hospital from a gunshot wound, and Erica eager to stop the monsters that are loose in this town. This volume delves a little bit deeper into the mystery that is Erica, and the House of Slaughter that presumably trained her in the ways of a monster hunter. We hear her retell the account of how she lost her family. Reading Volume 2 immediately after Volume 1, it was really encouraging to not notice any discernible drop in quality, at least in my mind. The storytelling is just as strong, and the characters just grow more layered as we see them grow and interact throughout these next 5 issues. It became immediately clear to me as I began the final issue of Volume 2 that I wasn't going to see the resolution to what happens in this sleepy little town. Oh no, Volume 2 ends at another high point as the baby monsters have finally grown and are now loose at a large gathering full of victims. All I can say is I cannot wait to get my hands on Volume 3. This was a great beginning to the series. I loved reading these first 10 issues, and even getting to see these variant cover art galleries that were present in both of the collections. Well done, Tynion and team. You have a fan. And that'll do it for my coverage of the first 2 volumes of Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion and Werther Dell'Edera. And now, all that's left is to give these collections a grade. For its spectacular cast of grounded, nuanced characters, amid a vibrant backdrop with just the right amount of both intrigue and horror, The Comic Book Report awards the first 2 volumes of Something is Killing the Children an A-. I only started reading this series 24 hours ago, but it's hard not to see the makings of a classic here in my hands. I'll have to continue reading to give an idea of how good the series is as a whole, but it's off to a great start, and I, for one, have to continue reading. Thank you for watching The Comic Book Report. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing or looking at some of my other popular videos. Until next time, have a good one.